And so a faith flex is to encourage people to take their faith-based principles and marry practical living standards that we tend to miss in our kingdom community because we're like, oh, just pray about it and go away. Well, if I am sexually aroused and I pray about it and the sexual arousal is still there, am I praying wrong or is the God not listening? But we're not growing and cultivating the humanity of that space.
Hey there, Ryder. What's going on? Now, before we get into today's episode, I have a question for you. How long have you been sitting on your book idea? If you're tired of thinking about it and ready to actually make progress, join me the last Sunday of every month for my live writing masterclass. Now, this isn't just another class. It's an interactive space where you finally gain some clarity on your book and help you break through some mindsets that are blocking you and get the roadmap to actually start writing. And as a bonus, when you register, you'll get a free 20-minute coaching session with me. Spots are limited. Don't wait. Click the link in the show notes or scan the QR code to sign up. Let's get your book out of your head and onto the page. I'll see you then. Welcome back to 30 Minutes of Power, the podcast where we talk faith, resilience, and the stories that fuel both. I'm your host, Jori O'Neale, and today, listen, y'all, today's guest is the definition of dynamic. She's not only a speaker, entrepreneur, a tech professional, a pageant queen, a liturgical dancer, and yes, the host of the Faith Flex podcast. Please help me welcome to the mic, Monica Roxanne.
Hey, everybody. Hello, Jori. It's so good to be on the podcast with you. I've been itching to get here. So thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate that. Listen, I'm excited to have you on the show. First off, how you doing?
That's a loaded question. Right now, I'm actually excited to be here. So not rushing to do anything else. This is great. I'm looking for the conversation. So it's Friday for us. So I get to hang out with my girl and we can have a healthy conversation to recover from the week. Outside of that, it is life be lifing. So, work is good, life is good, but we are working through challenges in this unique social economic space, thus here in these United States of America. So
I love that. So then we're going to jump right in. So the name of your show is The Faith Flex. And now it already gives me sort of a vibe. So what does it mean to have faith that flexes?
Yeah. So I wanted to create a space where people, and actually the ministry to myself is for me to jump, right? There's so many things that I wanted to do. And I feel like so many times I've talked myself out of it or delayed the pursuit of something because I was like, oh, I know I could give you 1,000 reasons why I shouldn't do it, or everybody else is doing it. So what I'm going to add to the space. But over the last probably year and a half or prior to me starting the podcast, I really realized that Monica, you're called for a specific set of people. Just work that mountain, that area, that land that you are called to. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. And so, Mike, one of the things that I think is important, especially with our young people, so me being in my 40s, there's 2 generations coming up behind me and some, right? And so they are looking for a place where they can connect faith-based principles, the things that is the fundamental premise of who God is and what he's called us to be, outside of the pump and stance and the shouting and the cartwheels that we may do or see in a church, but to who God truly is. And they're not interested in all of that stuff. They just want God. How can you love me in my imperfection? If I doubt, am I sinning? The answer is no. Doubt exists. It is what you do in the midst of that doubt is when you commit the sin. And so a faith flex is to encourage people to take their faith-based principles and marry practical living standards that we tend to miss in our kingdom community because we're like, oh, just pray about it and go away. Well, if I am sexually aroused and I pray about it and the sexual arousal is still there, am I praying wrong or is the God not listening? And so, but we're not really growing and cultivating the humanity of that space, right? We're encouraging them to think, use their thought process, their willpower, and developing systems and disciplines so that they can choose remain in a path that God is pleads with in their own life and their own purpose. So taking the faith-based principles and partnering that and marrying that with practical living principles, um, a lot of that comes down to choosing to flex your faith. Like, Lord, I believe you above everything else. So I'm going to flex this muscle that I have. And then we all know, if we take the framework of exercising, you have to put in some work. It's going to be difficult. You're going to be sore. You're going to plateau if you're trying to lose weight. All of those changes come, but you choosing every single day to believe in the very value of who God is, and basically strengthening and developing your faith. You can flex that thing and move a mountain, and that's really what that story, I believe, the faith of the size of a mustard seed can move a mountain, is us putting in that work. So that's
And
why.
and so listen, if y'all familiar with 30 Minutes of Power, then you know why she here. You know why she here. Listen, 30 Minutes of Power is a place where we give practicals every episode. At the end of every episode, we give at least one practical on how someone can put what was talked about
Yeah,
into application in their real lives. So,
yeah,
um, listen, we in cahoots. I love it. It's great.
I love
Speaking of
it.
cahoots, you are from Springfield, Illinois?
Yeah, so I am a Navy brat. So I was born in Springfield, Illinois on Scott Air Force Base. And then for the first like 5 years of my life, we kind of like traveled because that's what military people do. And then we officially landed in Virginia, where I was raised there, lived there for about 20 years before I transitioned to Louisiana to be with my mom. But yeah, so I'm born in Springfield, Illinois, lived there for a year and a half, I think, after I was born, according to the story my parents tell me. And then we went to California, New York, all of those places. And then finally, the heart of the Navy is, of course, in Virginia. And so that's where I was raised until, man, when did I leave there? I think 25. So since then, I've been traveling everywhere else.
So all the things that I said at the beginning of the show, right? The pageant queen, the liturgical dance, right? The corporate, the tech, the like, how do you blend this creativity and this corporate? Like, how do you? I have to scratch my head sometimes. All the interest that I have, like personally, right? Like
Yeah,
I love tech. Like I love regenerative AI. I like that.
yeah,
I love playing in that space. I love seeing what it can do. I love creation, but I also am like just a in-person creative, right? Like the
yeah.
dancer, the singer, the actress, right? The comedian. And so I don't toggle anymore. And I think that's hard for people to understand. Like I'm not toggling between two spaces. I am me, right? Like God created the universe, but he also created us. And if we're in the image of the creator, then we too are creatives. And it's just about how you approach creativity. So I would love to hear your
Mhm.
take on how you use, I guess, your platform to
Mhm.
push forth this beautiful blend of creative and corporate that's so powerful.
So that you said it perfectly, right? It's being okay with who you are. Um, so in the early 2000s, 90s, I'm an 80s baby, born in 80s, but you know, we were taught that you only can, find this one niche or thing, and then you master that, and that is who you are. What we missed in even Jesus' story was he was more than just that. He was a carpenter. He knew how to fish. He knew how to speak to people. He knew when to throttle back and let his disciples develop in their own space. He knew how to teach. He knew how to cultivate. And so nothing of that changed who he was. It was just taking the foundations of who he was created to be and applying them in each of those spaces. So from being a professional in technology or a technology evangelist, I enjoy progression, moving forward and growing, because here's what I know. The Bible is clear, is that um, God only responds to those who are alive and moving, right? Everything that he did was there should be growth. Anytime that he ever spoke about the dead, he says, let the dead bury the dead, meaning those who have given up, lost hope, or do not believe there's anything left. If there was a fig tree that was not producing, he says, cut it down. So even then when he talks about tattoos, he says he doesn't disagree with tattoos. He just says, do not tattoo the dead on your body, because for him, the dead has already come to a conclusion, to an end. There's a period. Therefore, there's no need to go back and revisit your past when it's dead. He is only interested in where we're going in growth because that means that there's more to do and we have not yet arrived.
Mm,
So my point to my space is when I take my creativity is for every single person that I engage with in all the platforms because the fundamental principle of who I am is God be pleased with what all that I do. And so, yes, that means that in the compliance space or corporate space, yes, there's a lot of political, choose my words wisely, three-car Monty, if you will. And you have to do that. You have to be smarter than the person that you're playing with. Um, but the only way you can do that is to be wise, be discerning, be observing. That doesn't change my moral ethics and my principles. Being a pageant coach or being a pageant queen, it doesn't change the my heartbeat of who God is or what I'm trying to do is mean to engage his people and then be impactful and influence. What it does open a door because everybody pays attention to a crown. And pageantry has taught me to refine my ability to speak well because that's one of the key components in pageantry. It's not just showing up and being able to put on makeup and throwing that, presenting the room and influence the room. That's a gift, but you have to learn how to master that. But also being able to captivate people in a conversation in less than 30 seconds. And that's not throwing a pitch, but making engaging. So people want to hear more that you have to say. You are taught that in pageantry. And so then I get to teach that to women who may not have the opportunity to get that in their own schools or their own families who says, well, you don't look like a pageant queen. Well, I'm plus size and honey, give me big hair and sparkling things and I got you. But it doesn't change the fact that my premise is helping people and giving them a space to exceed. So um, I'm for technology because technology is saying that there is somebody that is still innovative, who is creative, that is still thinking beyond the box, which means that there's more room for us as humans to grow. And so God can do amazing things. And then in the space of dance or the performing arts or worship arts, why not? If Genesis 1 says that he hovered over the earth, which means in the Greek, excuse me, in the Hebrew meant that he leaped and he jumped or sprang over the earth. The earth has blue, the grass is green, the sky is blue or teal or green, the sun is orange. All of those were created by intention. There's the creativity.
mm.
So I get the honor, the gift, either through music, dance, song, whatever it is, to bring that creativity in the space because the God I serve is that creative, right? You and I are both African American women, but you're different. I'm different. We have our different vibes, our different spaces. But does that mean that we're less than each other? No. That's the beauty of the creation that he says is called DNA. Then he was even more specific. Here's the Y chromosome. Then there's DNA and genealogy. Like he's so meticulous that now we have a Jori, now we have a Monica, we have all of these people. That's every single day the engagement that we have with one another is the creativity of God. And so I don't care what platform that I'm in or on. I get the opportunity to engage in the beauty and creativity of who he is by engaging with his people because essentially he says, I created you out of the likeness of me. And so, yeah, that's how I integrate all of that.
So, I mean, you just touched upon a lot of things. Using your platform to promote body positivity, right?
Yeah.
Tech advancement and
Yeah.
spirituality. Like, how do you stay grounded with so many hats?
Yeah. So there's two parts of it. One, the bigger part is from the humanity side is time management. So like if I'm recording either one of my podcasts for either my professional career or the Faith Flex, I do bulk recording. So I block out a time in my day, usually on the weekends or in the evenings, and I get as many guests as I can because that time is slotted. So now I have hopefully anyway 4 to 6 weeks of recordings, and now I don't have to take up 4 to 6 weeks to engage in trying to pick up recording. The other is so if I do that one day, then the next day I will block out time to say I have to work on NLDN items, right? But if I have some daily items, I try to do it between 5 a.m. in the morning to 8 a.m. because I get most of my work done for my other 9 to 5, or I call it my after 9 to 5 work. between that time, and then I give my people that pay my bills they're 8 to 5. So I think it's really about time management. So that's the humanity side of it. The other side of it is my character. I have been blessed with some of the greatest mentors and in my life, in my younger years, my 20s, when I was trying to figure out my whole life and what was good and what isn't, or detoxing from cultural behaviors and all of that. My spiritual mom said to me, she said, Monica, listen, you have a calling in your life, and whatever that is, the only thing that's going to keep you, because you're going to succeed, is your character.
Mm.
And she said, you cannot be a victim of your accolades or your own success. And so I was like, oh, okay. So in my 20s, I didn't necessarily get it, but I took that as, okay, how do I get there? Right. And so that's taken years to, one, being able to recognize when I am, it's a me issue, meaning I feel like it's usually where I start. I feel like they're talking about me. And I'm like, then the maturity of me says, Monica Roxanne, are they really talking about you? Or are you projecting? Do you feel some kind of way? What is that, right? So really taking the word and applying it and laying it at the altar or wherever I got going on and allowing it to be like sandpaper. I am a grade of sandpaper. The Bible's a grain of sandpaper. If you let the Bible rub against you and deal with your issues, you're going to be smooth over time. And then as life be life, and as Psalms 23 says, and he lays by the still water because life he heals his soul because all of the nicks and things of that nature, and then you go back and you're like, dang, I thought I fixed that. Let the word do it again. I think that's what allows me to stay grounded and rooted is remembering that if I love God the way I do, or I say I do, and I believe that I'm here for a purpose and his will, then nothing that I do is a waste of time. No
Mm.
effort is a waste of time. No engagement is a waste of time. It doesn't mean that engagements are always positive. It's just I need to find a lesson learned. And if I do that, then it allows me to remain grounded. And even when I do miss it, I make a mistake, figure out the wisdom, right? Whatever it is, figure out what the wisdom is, because I think it's Proverbs chapter 8 says, Proverbs chapter 8, I think it starts at verse 20. Wisdom says, I was there, I existed before the earth was even formed. There's a boastfulness in wisdom. And we know that Proverbs 4 and 7 says that, wisdom is the principal things, and all that getting wisdom, get knowledge and understanding. Well, in order to get knowledge and understanding, again, one, you have to exist. Two, you have to be present in the moment. Three, you have to be alive to do such a thing. But the third, you have to choose to learn from the engagement and the wisdom. So I know that's say a lot, but that's how I stay grounded, is to gain the wisdom and remember that all the things that I do succeed, I have the successes, the opportunities that I have, it's an opportunity for God to be glorified. And I need to remember, or keep checked at the door anyway. I need to remember and keep checked at the door that it's not about Monica. Because if Monica had to do it, honey, I have imposter syndromes. I can sit at the house and mind my whole business. Okay. So, yeah, I have to flex my faith every day in the God that I serve.
Amen. I think there's something deeply prophetic about being excellent, right, in
Yeah.
secular spaces while still walking in spiritual authority.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt like your spirituality set you apart or like made you feel possibly isolated in corporate spaces?
Absolutely. So I'm not even say that's a double entendre, but it has a double meaning for me, because in my specific space, in my corporate space, I am a compliance professional who expertise is in cybersecurity. Well, who works for a company that's an engineering company. Therefore, which means that I'm in a super small niche in compliance. I am in a more demanding space of cybersecurity, but I work in engineering, which is usually male dominated. And then based on my region that I live in, it is white male dominated. So you have the corporate politics, then you have the cultural politics. And then you have a young lady who is 5'9", plus size, who is confident enough to speak her truth based on her obligation for a moral, ethical approach, regulations, and operational behaviors so that we can continue to build trust and confidence in the products that we serve, right? I have to now tell this particular group of individuals that either they're doing something right, or they need to pivot, or they're doing something wrong. That's just my engineers. And I have to guide my senior management to say to them, these are the new guidance that are coming down the pipeline. And yes, we're going to have to invest some money to ensure that we're compliant. Well, nobody wants to hear about money that they can't see in cybersecurity, right? And so there, I'm often faced with pushback in a meeting where I'm usually the only black, I'm usually the only woman, and I'm usually the youngest in the room. So I'm three strikes, I'm out. To say to them, well, or to hear that, well, we didn't have to do that before. Cue eye roll here. I know that, right? We're in now in 2025, but you got to do it now. And so now I have to literally present my case on a regular of why we should do or follow these guidelines and why they apply to our products or whatever that we're doing. So I have to deal with that dispensation and to ensure, as a black woman, that I never ever, and thank goodness so far that hasn't happened, where I am deemed or labeled as the angry black lady. Because once that happens, then credibility goes out the door,
Yep.
right? For us, right? And so I've learned to earn the respect, and it's taking me time and patience. I have to, which then flips to the other side of my faith, because my faith teaches me how to speak to people who are brash, or the Bible or Proverbs calls them fools, in such a way that they either, even they may not like what I have to say, but I earn their respect. And that's where I'm at in my career, is that I've earned their respect, and that I um, encourage them. I'm here to do this with you. This is a partnership. So let's have the conversation. I'm not upset about nothing, because you can't talk to usually my men with emotions because they tune you out, but we deal with facts. And yes, there may be objective sides to those facts. So again, always looking at both sides of the coin. But the premise always will always be, for me, we're going to do the right thing in spite of, right? Regardless if someone sees it or not. And so that's what God calls us to, is to give the respect where respect is due, but also be the voice for people who don't have the resources to be a voice. So, and the rest of it is just God himself. Like, I know when I walk in the room, Jori, I know when I walk in the room, everybody pays attention. They may not know who I am, but they're like, oh, yeah, I saw you. They may not know my name or anything. So I know that the mantle that I carry, God is with me. It is how I conduct myself in those varying spaces that I'm different. I didn't come for myself, but I came for the betterment of mankind and humanity.
There was a lot to that. It almost sounded like, because remember, I'm a polarized thinker, so it's like, okay, we got something over here, we got something over here, we got to figure out how to make them work. It sounds like your relationship with God may be the superpower that allows you to continue to progress and advance in your career in the
Yeah,
secular
absolutely.
space.
Yeah, it has to be my superpower, right? Because here's the thing. God's, when he created us, he talks about that in, I think it's Genesis 6, when he created man. That he says, I created you out of my likeness. He says, I've given you power and dominion. So there is power and dominion in my space. So there's my space of influence, or, there's all the secular terms, your sphere of influence, da, 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 da. But there's a space that you influence, right? So I have control. I have the control to discipline myself. I have control to manage and steward my funds, my money. That's why how you steward your life is a representation of who God is in your life, and is a blessing. It sets you up to for the next move or to be a blessing to someone else. The other part of that is the rest of it is just God to do his thing, because he's like, I want you to succeed. I want people to see my glory through you. And you're a walking billboard of who he is. So why not? Right? Why not do it well and in excellence? Does it take extra time? Yes. The problem that I think I have with the culture that we've somehow constructed in the church or in the kingdom collective is we give God pennies, but we expect him to
Mm.
give us millions. And
Well,
yet we don't do the $1 million work. And so for the, and especially in the social climate that we're in now, where black people again are being demonized due to the word DEI and all these other colloquial terms, it's not because we that we're looking for a handout. We've always developed excellence. The second we put our hands to the ground, excellence show up. We're one of the few cultures that have been able to go essentially neck to neck, matched one to one to our white counterparts. The question is why, right? And that is God being is saying, when you are in purpose, I've already given you dominion and power. Do it well among the people that you are required to serve with. The rest of it's on me. So when I walk in a room, I may have imposter syndrome. Let me be clear. I may feel some kind of way like I don't belong in this room because I don't have the long degrees and all the titles before and after my name. But when I walk in a room and I say, God, I trust you anyway. I love you. If I jump, you're gonna have to catch me. I ain't got no wings. So that's not what I have. And he's like, if you're in my will, then absolutely. We give him the space and the permission to do it. All the miraculous. Okay, God, you're good. You're dope. For everyone else who says, it's about me, and we see we are missing the key principles of God through, in this part is immigration and migrants and the whole nine. We're missing the premise of who God is. Anybody that's against that, you're not really a believer. You're really just providing lip service because it's common. It's a common tongue, right? Because again, if we're created out of his likeness and we execute that on a daily basis, then your heart posture is going to be for the people, not just for those who are succeeding, but for those who that you're to connect with and lift up. Because even he who God is, his name is Jehovah. I am that I am. He came to this earth in flesh. He didn't come here in part of his house. He didn't come here in the Roman Catholic's house. He came here with Joseph and Mary, and they were illegal immigrants themselves. So I'm just saying.
Wow. Okay, so that's gonna go in my journal. She say y'all out here giving God pennies and expecting millions. I feel like shots is fired. I feel like somebody needs to go get some Teflon.
No, no need to get the Teflon. Just can we do better? Listen, if I tell my dancers, okay, when we talk about garments, right? And yes, I get it. Not every person who's called to the ministry of dance is going to, I'm gonna go back. Those who enjoy dance is not necessarily called. So for those who are called, they're going to invest in their garments so that it represents the excellence of God and to whom they've submitted to in their calling. For those who like dance, they're just going to do the bare minimum. Okay, I get it. But if your weave is 250 and I have to do a whole business case for you to buy a $40 garment to wrap your top, we got a problem. If your nails cost 150, but you can't pay your tithes, and that's not that the church necessarily needs it, it's the discipline, the obedience of the discipline, right? To give back what you've been given. And the God we serve is only asking for 10%. He didn't ask for the full 90. Then we have problems. And so we mismanage our gifts that we have because we're like, well, God, we need to fix it. It's just like our health. If we're not taking care of our bodies and then the body falls apart, and then we're like, well, God, we want you to heal me. And God's looking at you, well, you could have prevented that. And part of this, you can heal yourself. So partner with me, do the work, and then the rest of it, I got, right? And so I just think we've said, pray about it, and the Lord will drop down. We have testimony service. We give a not a false narrative because God does those things, but we do not give them the heart, the solid truth that there's a partnership that we have to walk in step with God in order for Him to, because He's not going to bless the chaos. He doesn't even fool with the chaos. The chaos to Him is like if you do Passover, there's a portion of the Passover Seder where they give you horseradish. And they say in their reading is that the horseradish is like how sin tastes to God. Well, horseradish, if you take it in its raw form, oh my God, it makes your eyes burn, your nose cleans you out, all the whole
Yeah, I
nine.
made a mistake once. I ate some horseradish, thought it was mustard.
Yeah, and it will take you out. So imagine if that experience is how God sees us when we're in our sin. So, and then many of us willfully sin. We were like, oh God, you'll fix it tomorrow. God's like, for real, I got to sit here and my nose running, my eyeballs burning, and all that until you decide to give me praise and ask for forgiveness. And because He's a forgiving God, He does. But at what point, because He's very clear, at some point, I'm going to give you back to your own self, your own mind, right? He says, I'll give you back to your reprobate mind. I will take my hand off of you, and you do whatever you want to do because clearly you're choosing you over me. So we're not giving God His due diligence of honor, because even though He honors us on a regular basis, and then we stifle our growth if we don't tap into who He is. But part of that is us showing up and saying, okay, God, do me. And yes, it's going to, again, like that sandpaper. I got to love my neighbor too. Yes, you got to love your neighbor too. But that doesn't mean that I love my neighbor to allow my neighbor to abuse me. It just means I need to love my neighbor to ensure that there's no bitterness rooting itself in my heart. But I still need to set the appropriate boundaries and expectations to protect my peace because I'm still responsible for the sphere of influence that I've been ordained to walk in. So hopefully I answered that question.
No, so again, I love listening to humans, but I always want to, I guess, recap what was said to ensure that what I received is what you was trying to send. You know what I'm saying?
No,
So
I
like,
love it. Yeah.
so what I've surmised from everything you just shared is that there's a pendulum, right? In our walk with God and in the church, right? In the kingdom of God, there's this pendulum, and neither side is right. That neither the side that is just I'm out here doing me, and eventually one day I'm gonna get it right with God, nor is the judgmental, hypercritical, using the Bible as a bully to manipulate
Yep.
people into doing things the way that they want them to. That side is wrong
Bro.
also.
Yep.
There is a space in the middle where we partner with God. We don't use the Bible, we don't use the word of God as a weapon,
Yeah.
but we don't neglect and negate the word of God either. There's a
Exactly.
space in the middle where we meet God in his
Yeah.
word, at his word, by applying his word.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. See, I'm picking up what you're putting down. I'm picking it up.
Girl, you picked it up, packaged it real well, and put a bow on top of it, and I appreciate you.
Well, that's my superpower. Taking all the
There it
things and
is.
then making them like precise and I need a bite-sized chunk.
Yep.
I have one last question. One
Yeah,
last question. This is called 30 minutes of power. 30 minutes of power. What's your personal definition of power?
that's good. Um, my personal definition of power is the person or the gift to present grace to a space or an individual that doesn't necessarily deserve it or need it, because power in itself is nothing without being used, without the character of the individual, right? And it's something about this thing called grace and mercy that can shift a paradigm in such a way that you can either bless a person or destroy a person.
Mm.
And so for me, if we're talking about real power, I could tell you love is a power. I can tell you, compassion is a power, but I think it's grace and mercy. Grace is the very thing that will wrap itself around you, heal your soul, and give you another opportunity to move forward. Mercy is the very thing that, even though you are guilty, will then wrap itself around you, heal your soul, and give you the opportunity to do it better. And that's by choice. So if you are in this position of power, practice grace and mercy because you could heal yourself, heal those, and create opportunities where God can do the miraculous in an environment, situation, a person's life, a person's life that's near you, by extending grace and mercy. I think that's for me is power because everything else is tangible. You can create power if you want, just be deceitful. That's easy. But the real power is when you're choosing others above yourself, and that's through grace and mercy.
Wow. All right, folks. Y'all heard it here. Y'all heard it here. Right. So this is faith that flexes and it isn't weak. I like it. See,
Yep.
she talking about that wise faith. That's that wise faith right there. Listen,
They're wise faith. We're gonna have to do an episode and bring you on the Faith Flex podcast and have you talk about that wise faith.
but this is what I'm discerning from what you're saying that there is
Yeah.
when there is an opportunity to do evil, choosing to do good is power.
Yeah.
All right, listen, folks. Monica Roxanne is proof that you could serve God, you could work hard, you could dance boldly, and you can lead change all at once and do it righteously with character.
Yeah.
Thank you, Monica. I appreciate you spending 30 minutes of power with us. Where can folks find you? How can they catch up with you? But
Yeah, absolutely. Jory, thank you so much. And to your whole community, thank you for having me. You can find me on a few places. Definitely look up the Faith Flex podcast. We're on all of the platforms, including YouTube and Substack. If you want to subscribe and get those wise faith news hot topics, then definitely join my Substack. But if you type in the Faith Flex podcast, we're everywhere. So on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all those places. If you want to follow me personally, definitely check me out on Monica Reagor, which is my last name, on LinkedIn or Facebook. But if the other spaces like pageantry and NLDN, which is our liturgical dance network, just jump in. Get in when you fit in because there's space for you.
amen. All right, people. Until next time, keep the faith, keep the fire, and remember, your story holds power. Until next time,
Love it.
people, be an empowered person using your power to empower others. Peace. All right, before we wrap up today, I want to remind you, if a book is on your heart, then this Sunday is your chance to finally take that first step. Join me for a live writing masterclass, and we'll break down the book writing process and get you moving forward from idea to execution. So head over to jorioneale.com/your_story_matters. Thanks for tuning in to 30 Minutes of Power. We hope today's episode inspired you to take action and make a positive change in your life. Remember, your power is meant to empower others. So share this episode with someone who needs encouragement today. We'd love to hear from you, so connect with us on Instagram at 30 Minutes of Power or email us at azironsharpensiron@gmail.com. Until next time, stay empowered and keep empowering others.
30 minutes of power.